carbohydrates are not actually considered an essential nutrient. In other words, you can live without it. Athletes need a certain amount of carbohydrates to, one, fuel the workout in the first place. Converting protein to energy isn't fun for the body. It only does that if it has to.
Yeah.
Converting fat just takes too long. If you don't immediately put in fast-acting carbs after a workout, you will not replenish your glycogen stores before the next day. Carbohydrates, more than anything in a weight loss or a body fat reduction program, there's still that craving for carbs. So they really play an important role in managing appetite to a certain extent.
All right, welcome back for another episode of Sup Beast. As always, Zane Spruce, Neal Spruce, and today we're going to be talking about carbohydrates, all right? And for whatever reason, carbs is now a controversial topic in the world for, a plethora of reasons, I guess.
I'm glad we're going to go deeper, and we've already done some segments about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, but it's become the mortal enemy. You know, it's become, literally businesses have been created around low carb shit. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, it's time to let's set a record straight. It's in the context.
Right. And
so I love the fact that we're going to be going a little bit deeper than normal.
Yeah. So let's create some context around the carbohydrates, which is we're going to be going over, weight loss, performance, muscle gain, etc. So, we're going to lay out all the facts, and from there on, you can decide if carbs are for you or not.
Exactly.
But there will be no fear-mongering or anything like that. It's just going to be the straight facts, okay, of carbohydrate intake.
And based on the real world that we work in.
Right.
With 10 million people that follow our programs. Yeah.
So we'll just lay a little groundwork here with the first question as what are carbohydrates and why do we need them or not need them?
Yeah. Well, sadly, carbohydrates are not actually considered an essential nutrient. In other words, you can live without it. A miserable life it would be, okay? And it'd be a short life as well because, again, fruits, vegetables, whole grains are carbohydrates. So that's where we get our fiber that keeps us able to live a little bit longer, a little bit better, keeps our microbiome healthy, which communicates to the rest of the body to be healthy, all that kind of stuff. So that's what carbohydrates are. And the other part is they are the preferred energy of the human system. That is the preferred energy for all of our trillions of cells. They want glucose. So it's how you package the glucose in nature and you consume it and then or manufacture it and put it in the body, and that's how your body's going to deal with it. And it's also the person that's consuming it. You got to put in the context of that. So bottom line is carbs can be extremely healthy or they can be bad.
Yeah.
But bottom line is they're fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and that's where you're getting most of your carbs.
And so we were saying, why do you need them? You don't need them, right? But
yeah, if you need them if you want to live a healthy life and you want to live longer, then and better. It's not about living long. It's about living better while you live, right?
Yeah.
So, at some point, but again, we're talking about good carbs versus bad carbs. See, that's where everybody gets screwed up.
Right.
We have good fats and bad fats, and you could argue the thing about protein, except if you're talking about protein, it just happens to be, a group of amino acids, and so it's what's around it. Is there more fat in it, or everything else? Is it, with the meat, whatever you're consuming to get your protein, is it got all kinds of other stuff in it? So that's what it comes down to. It comes down to what are we talking about with carbohydrates? And so when you start asking the questions, we go forward and try to dispel some of these myths and then give people some good advice. I think let's put it in the context.
I know, and I just want to give the people that are no carb a little slack here. So why do you not need them though?
Well, yeah, you don't need them because they're not providing. You can get energy. The human body, we're like an amazing species that we adapt to whatever food's available. So you figure, 4 million years as hominids, sometimes we didn't get any protein for the first few million. We're just eating nuts or we're eating tubers or we're eating whatever foraging for stuff like that. But our stomachs were like 5 times longer. So we could actually extract protein, extract things out of it before it went out.
Yeah.
Now, of course, our stomachs have shrunk once we discovered protein. And then protein, we don't need to have it in our systems that long to be able to get the stuff that we need. So there's really nothing. There is I mean, it's just not listed as one of the essential nutrients like vitamins and minerals. So it's like you could live without it. Pretty hard to not consume some kind of carbohydrate somewhere in the real world, but you could live. In other words, you're not going to have what we call a nutrient deficiency like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin C, these things that you'll die if you don't correct the deficiency. Right. Carbohydrates, I mean, at some point, I mean, no one lives on a zero carb diet. So, again, where are you going to get your fiber? You're not going to get fiber really anywhere, if you don't, and those are the things we need to live healthier.
People,
so, yeah.
We have a fiber episode, okay, where we talk about people that say you don't need any fiber, so you can check that out. That's not this episode, okay? But yeah, I mean, every time we post something about a carb or carbohydrates, there's always one person in the comments always saying the human body doesn't require one carb.
Yeah. Well, and they're echoing what I just said. Okay. It doesn't require it for you to live that day or the next day or the next day, but it's going to at some point make you live a worse life. If you don't get, again, I'm not talking about bad carbs. Right. You got to separate the two.
Right.
You got your simple carbs that are just loaded with just glucose molecule, glucose polymer that just gets dissolved immediately in your body, brings in no other good nutrition with it. Then you got your good carbs. Your bad carbs are the ones that just don't bring any nutrition. Like take a can of soda.
Right.
Okay, it's going to have, and we're talking about the regular sweetened ones, right? It's going to have 120, 150 calories. And what are you getting with those 150 calories? Nothing. Okay, except straight glucose in your body. Little sugar spike, all that. So that's a bad carb. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Everybody knows that. Yeah. White bread versus a whole wheat bread, a real whole wheat bread, right? But people don't realize what white bread really is. It was like I used to crack me up. I used to lecture years ago, way back. I mean, because the trick that people would put on from whole wheat, no shit. We don't grow any white wheat anywhere or refined wheat, okay? So from whole wheat, that's where all these refined stuff. We take all the frickin' vitamins and minerals out of it, so it tastes sweet and good, and there's no fiber left in it. So that's a bad carb. That's what it comes down to, and that's what people like. They like it because it's sweet tasting. Have you ever had a piece of white bread versus a whole wheat bread? White bread God, it almost tastes sugary. Yeah. That's how fast it breaks down in your body and glucose goes into your system. But a whole wheat bread, it's not quite as sweet. So people just don't have that same attraction to it. Yeah. So we got to separate the two.
Good. What are the different types of carbs, meaning like simple versus complex, and how do they affect the body differently?
Yeah. So you got your simple carbs are the ones that break down very quickly. And surprisingly enough, I mean, even fruits, they'll be considered simple carbohydrates within the fruit, but you're getting a ton of nutrition with it. You eat an orange, you eat an apple, you get all kinds of other things, especially, again, like apples, you always eat the skin. These are things that you get a lot. You get fiber from it, you get pectin from it, you get some really good stuff inside that along with that. But there's fructose, which is a simple carb that's in there. And then like bananas are very quick acting. Once they get in the system, they're glucose and fructose as far as the sweetener. But they've got all kinds of other potassium and other minerals and all kinds of great stuff. That's a good carb. Even though it's simple, it's a good carb.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you get more complex. You're talking about like whole grains, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread. I mean, really whole grain with everything in it, solid. Nothing's been stripped. So it's as close to its natural source. It's just put into a bread. So you've got those. Those things are very solid, good carbs. And they supply a lot of nutrition along with the calories and good energy because that is the preferred source of the body. Body wants carbs first. It's just looking for that right off the bat. They also digest slowly, so your energy levels are even keel. Like it just goes up slowly, 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 slowly. Like a baked potato with skin is a great way to go. As bodybuilders, we lived on baked potatoes and yams and all these things. Of course, we ate the skin with it as well. Those were our carb sources. Now, simple carbs, I just mentioned one. Yeah, your sodas that are sweetened just with regular crappy, sugar stuff. They're natural sugars, but they're still sweetened with it, and you're empty. We call them empty calories. Okay, And then, the other things that, any other simple carb is just something that just raises your blood sugar level very quickly. And then all your other simple carbs they're attached to foods like, a Twinkie or something, you got fats in it, lousy foods. So, again, just thinking about good carbs versus bad carbs. I think that's where everything kind of starts with there. And there's nothing wrong with good carbs in any healthy person that's active's diet, and bad carbs just don't make any sense for anybody, but it's fun to have once in a while. And even I do, as you know. Even a bagel is more of a simple, even though it's a glucose polymer, it takes a little while to break it down, but it still generally gets in your system fairly quickly, which we athletes will live on.
So yeah, you just said athletes, so we'll start transitioning into what carbohydrates do for energy levels. So how do carbs impact energy levels, especially for people who work out regularly?
I mean, carbs, again, are the preferred source of all humans for energy. So it's looking for your glucose in your system. So you've got your glycogen stores, which stores glucose for your activities, because you're not like a hummingbird and just moving and eating all the time. You've got to, we're periodic eaters. We have to store that. And we store our sugar in our glycogen stores, so our liver and our muscle have it. And we also want it trickling in through our system on a regular basis. And all athletes eat carbs. And that's the other thing about that. Endurance athletes, they'll eat 70% of their calories from carbs.
Yeah.
Because they've got to fuel their activities. They might be a 3 or 4 hour workout. It just goes on forever. And they need that carbohydrates, because once they run out of carbohydrates, they'll hit the wall. And then they just kind of get dizzy, and then it's bad news when it comes to performance. So athletes need a certain amount of carbohydrates to, one, fuel the workout in the first place. Okay, converting protein to energy isn't fun for the body. It only does that if it has to.
Yeah.
Converting fat just takes too long, so you don't have that immediate, sort of energy availability. And so the amount of carbohydrates that we need as athletes really depends on the sport. Like a weightlifter, that's the only thing that you do is weightlifting. You're a power lifter. You still want about 50% of your calories from carbohydrates, or certainly almost, certainly a little bit more than your protein, because you got to refuel for have a good workout. If you don't have a good workout, you're not going to have a great adaptation potential. You want to be able to, have a good workout, number one. And number two, you want to recover from the workout. And carbohydrates for athletes also, because they stimulate insulin even more than protein does, even though protein does too, but they stimulate it more, is anti-catabolic. Insulin is anti-catabolic. It suppresses cortisol and it jumps up testosterone levels, and you recover quicker, and it inhibits protein breakdown. So you're not breaking down as much protein during the workout. So that's how important it is to athletes. And refueling for your next workout, that's what it's all about for any athlete.
Let's get right into that. So how important are carbohydrates for athletic performance and muscle recovery?
Yeah, well, it's all that. We actually design it for, if you look at your endurance athletes, we design their carbohydrate intake before a workout, based on their weight and what their glycogen stores could be, right? And we do a math equation for that. So that's how much they need to eat 3 hours before, and then trickle them in during, and then during the runs and during their activity, there's a certain amount that your intestines can actually keep delivering glucose to, because you want straight glucose. That's why Gatorade is just straight sugar. And of course, it's not, people buy it thinking that like it's something healthy for you. Well, it's nothing healthy for somebody this doesn't work out, right, or it's not anything else. It's just a sweet drink. It's basically a Coke at that point.
Yeah.
But for an athlete, it's very important, because it cannot forget, again, the electrolytes are there, but it also delivers a little bit of sugar. We use some maltodextrin in it. We make sure that it gets fast out of the gastric system into your system. So that's propelling you during the workout. And then after the workout, we do the math right there. If you don't immediately put in fast-acting carbs after a workout, you will not replenish your glycogen stores before the next day. You've got to do it. So we time it every hour after a workout. Here's how much our athletes have to have after this workout, second hour, third hour, and then bang, their glycogen stores are full for the next day and the next bout of exercise or next competition. That's how critical carbohydrates are for that type of athlete. To a hypertrophy, or we want to go, that was endurance we were talking about, right? Okay, that's aerobic athletes, basically, and ultra endurance and so forth. It's all about carbs at that point. But you you wanted me to go to hypertrophy, or I mean, I don't want to jump ahead because there's you might have some other time. But I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah. So we can go straight to that. What's the ideal carbohydrate intake for someone focused on building muscle?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you definitely want enough, not just because to power your workout, because that's the primary energy source. You're going to get a little more energy that way, but also because the right low carbohydrate diets. When I say low, chronic low carbohydrate diets end up lowering your testosterone level right after about the second or third, fourth week while you're on a low carbohydrate. Now, we know, listen, remember, bodybuilders getting ready for a competition. Obviously, you're going to have an extreme low carbohydrate diet at the end to get the last bit of fat off. You don't have a choice. You got to keep the protein high and your calories got to go down to get that last little fat off so that all your body is like the back of your hand. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother world. But in the off season, the bodybuilder immediately goes to a higher carbohydrate. I mean, they increase our carbohydrates again.
Yeah.
Protein's always going to be 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. I don't care who you are, what you are. You just got to do that thing in your head, and sometimes more during body fat reduction. You can go even much higher.
You're saying that's the minimum.
Yeah, you got to do that, right? That's the minimum, right? Now, when it comes to building muscle, here's what carbohydrate does. And there's a great study. Whitaker et al. Did a whole analysis on chronic low carbohydrate diets and testosterone levels. Okay, I think I think most people know that your average testosterone level for men, from in their 20s on up, is between 300 nanograms per milliliter or a deciliter and 1,000. Okay, so 300 is like the lowest, and that's what happens when you get real old. Right? You're down to around that number. Well, guess what? Chronic low carbohydrate diet is even half of that after about 3 or 4 weeks. So these guys that stay on low carbohydrate diets all the time, they're trying to put on muscle. And we know that, and not only that, carbohydrates also, again, spare protein to build muscle. Because otherwise, you're going to have to convert the protein to energy.
Yeah.
And the glycogen refilling for the next workout and so forth. And it helps reduce the amount of breakdown that takes place from your workout. So these are all the things that are important. So the bottom line is this: you're going to want anywhere from 1.5 to 2 to 1 ratio of carbs to protein. When I work with giants, we work with the world's strongest men and so forth. We work with these giants. I don't care about a ratio. They're eating so many calories. They're eating 10,000 calories a day. And I'm not exaggerating to a certain extent for these 450-pound guys. Yeah. But let's just take someone else that's eating 6,000 like I used to when I was a giant back in the day. 6,000 calories a day. It really doesn't. You're eating so many carbs, there's no reason to do a ratio. Yeah. So much as your body can handle. But my testosterone levels are at the top at that point. I'm reducing muscle breakdown. There's more synthesis because carbohydrates also stimulate synthesis because of the insulin increase. And insulin increases testosterone, IGF-1, insulin growth factor, all that. So that's the importance for hypertrophy. Carbs need to be in the equation, or your testosterone goes down. Everybody go look at the Whitaker et al. Meta-analysis on that, because it was quite telling. Because we all knew that back in the day, because we always go back to a higher carbohydrate diet after dieting for shows, competition. But we finally we were intuitive about it. It just made sense. Because the goal is this, Zane. The goal for everybody that's listening right now, here's your goal. When your energy levels coming into your body are at the peak they can be, the much as your body can handle, glycogen stores and everything else for your workout, and your protein is coming in at the right levels like we were just talking about. That's the perfect anabolic storm. Because you're firing up your insulin growth factor, your thyroid hormones are all working better. Everything is working better when you get to that ratio for building muscle. It's all about having that perfect storm of energy intake and their protein intake, amino acid intake, and then everything just goes much better than when you're starving one of those. And there's two little systems in our body. We've talked about this before. Is mTOR, which is mammalian target of rapamycin. That is sensitive to amino acid intake, and it's reading the energy in the cells and everything else. So when amino acids come in, it turns on and tells you to build muscle. And there's a constant flow with all of our people that are working for hypertrophy. We have amino acids coming in nonstop from your protein shakes and from your regular protein, your food, amino acids separately. But here's the second part. AMPK, which is a protein kinase, activated protein, activated protein kinase. It is another sensor. It's actually our energy switch in our body. So when it senses low energy, low carbs, it tells your body stop building muscle. Because I've got to draw it from your protein now. So what we want is both of them loaded. And insulin tells AMPK, hey, stuff's coming in, so just shut down. You want to inhibit AMPK and you want to excite mTOR. And that's what you do when energy and amino acids come together. Bang. That's the magic. So that's how important carbs are to hypertrophy.
I mean, we had kind of talked about maybe a chronically low carbohydrate diet. Can someone build muscle effectively on a low carb diet, like a keto or a carnivore, if you will?
Well, it depends. If you are a novice, you can build muscle. I mean, in other words, you've never worked out before.
Right.
You can certainly build muscle on when you add resistance training. You'll have enough calories coming in and probably enough protein to at least build a little bit of muscle right off the bat. Is it the best way to do it? No, of course not. And would you ever, I mean, there's not a single athlete, and I don't care if some athlete might have signed up with some, like some person to promote a keto diet and they built muscle. They're bullshitting you. They don't do. You can't do that. It's never going to happen. It's just like intermittent fasting. I love it for dieting. I think it's great because that window controls people's calories, so that just works for dieting, for body fat loss. But we don't let athletes do that. You got to have that 4-hour rule. You got to have that stuff coming in nonstop if you want to be the best you can be.
Right.
If you don't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't give a shit. So yeah, you can build muscle on anything if you've never worked out before, as long as you're eating something.
Yeah, how far you are.
Yeah, exactly. How far you are. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But not for a length of time by doing the right things.
What role do glycogen stores play in strength training and hypertrophy?
Well, glycogen stores, that's your reserve energy source. Okay, so when you go into the gym, and you had your pre-workout meal, 3 hours before, all that extra gluten, everything is being stored into your system now, right? So you got your amino acid stores into that. We're now in the post-absorptive state. We've got all our sugar, our glucose is all now stored into our muscles and our liver. And then we go work out. So now we've got all kinds of energy stores. We work out, they start coming out. So we got more energy availability. We can go longer and harder. Okay, that's the pre-workout. Immediately after, again, having your carbohydrate and your protein drink, that now fills your glycogen stores for your next bout, and it keeps you from breaking down too much of the muscle that's going to happen from your workout because it's already happening. That's happening, and that can offset it at that particular point. So, and then you're going to be ready for your next bout the next day because your glycogen stores are refilled again by having it after the workout as well. So that's how important carbohydrates are for any kind of performance activity. You want it before your workout, you want it after your workout, and you want to evenly disperse through the day. Your goal is to keep your glycogen stores topped off as much as you can, as fast as you can. And we know the math we know the timing on that. Timing's really important if you want to maximize performance.
Is there an ideal carb to protein ratio for muscle building meals or post-workout nutrition?
I think we covered that. 1.5 to 2 to 1. So your carbs are a little bit higher than your protein at that particular point. All that means is you've got your carbs covered. You don't want low carbs. Or again, your testosterone's going to go down. You don't have enough of other stuff going on in your body because you've got all kinds of issues when you don't have enough carbs. And you want your carbohydrate stores to be full for each workout as well. So yeah, it's not necessarily a ratio. It's just having enough carbs, right? So if you're eating a 5,000 calorie a day diet, 2,500 of the calories those are definitely going to be carbs.
Do fast digesting carbs after a workout really boost muscle recovery, or is that outdated?
Oh, no. They definitely do. I mean, when it comes to endurance athletes, you don't need it for, your hypertrophy athletes, the anaerobic athlete. It's not so important. An endurance athlete, like I said, we time it every hour after a workout. Otherwise, you will not be able to top off your glycogen stores before your next bout the next day. Yeah. That's how important it is. So everything's about timing. When it comes to the endurance athlete, it's just not so important for the anaerobic athlete. It's not that big a deal.
We did touch on the hormone factor of all of this. So like, how do carbohydrates influence key muscle building hormones like insulin, testosterone, and IGF-1?
All three of them, it increases. and you want them all three, and you want all three increased. You want your testosterone, your insulin, and your IGF-1 to increase. That reduces muscle breakdown and it stimulates muscle protein synthesis. And carbs are very important in getting that levels to higher than low carbs. Let's put it that way.
So then what happens to hormone levels when someone is training hard but eating too few carbs?
Yeah, you're affecting, you're just not going to get the gains. You know, if you're still eating a low carb diet like you were a bodybuilder getting ready for a show the last few weeks, when you got to be on a super low carb diet, or you're anybody else like you're in your group, all the fighters have to make weight, you know, they're dropping down. If you stay on that, all those hormone levels are going to go down.
Well, let me ask the question then of what if you're doing that and you're not in a calorie deficit though? What if you're just eating low carb and you're not in a calorie
same
deficit?
thing. That's what I'm talking about. Forget the calorie deficit. What I'm saying is you stay on a chronic low carb diet, and we're talking about like less than 100 grams or 150, 200 grams or something like that if you're an athlete.
Right.
Your testosterone levels are down. It's that simple. And so, listen, like I told you, that Whitaker et al. Study just shows you all that. And you're not reducing the amount of cortisol that's breaking down your muscle. So you're breaking down more muscle than you normally would if you had enough carbs. That's where carbs are important. We're talking about good carbs. I'm not talking about just, pounding some sodas or something. We're talking about some decent carbs. Or it doesn't, all of our pre-game carbs, as you know, from football, and we design the training tables for so many different pro and college teams and so forth, that's all refined carbs because you want that in your system very quickly. So it is about carbs before activities for sure, for any athlete. Yeah. So and not to mention the recovery, but a lot of that, like we just talked about, you're just going to have, with a chronic low carb diet, you're going to have low testosterone all the time.
And then how do very low carb diets affect hormones like leptin and ghrelin? And can that interfere with building lean muscle mass?
Well, leptin and ghrelin, those are two appetite hormones. One's the full one and one's the hungry one. Okay, so the bottom line is, you're going to get hungry. I mean, if you're dieting, it's going to, any way you look at it, whatever those hormones are doing because of a low carb diet, whatever they're acting on, if you're not hungry for some reason, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously leptin gets to a place. Leptin is that one that tells you to stop eating. Ghrelin's the one that tells you to start eating. So it really doesn't matter, because if you're dieting, you're going to eventually be so hungry you're going to eat. It doesn't matter. So that's kind of a mood issue when it comes to anything to do with hypertrophy or anything. Those are appetite hormones. And anybody that's really trying to gain muscle, the goal is to eat the calories. Get the calories there along with your protein. That's the number one thing to do. I work with all these kids, as you know, these kids are going on to D1 schools, or they're D1 going into the pros, and it is getting them, when they have to put on muscle, it's the most difficult thing is getting them to eat that many calories. And that's where I don't care about how you get your calories. As long as you're active, nothing bad's going to happen when you eat French fries or something like that.
Yeah, we're talking in the context of active individuals who have solid control over their weight.
Yeah, and that's what exactly. But if you want to go to the other side now, how carbs got the bad rap,
we're going to get into
different.
the
That's
whole
totally
weight
different.
loss and
totally
diet segment here in a sec. So, do you think
listen, if you're an athlete and your goal is performance, obviously in endurance, carbohydrates are, super important all the way around. If you're an anaerobic athlete, so weightlifter, even the point of football, which is both crossover, anaerobic, aerobic. Most importantly, you're getting enough carbs to keep your recovery proper. So you have your glycogen stores for a good workout all ready to go, or good activity, whatever you're going to be doing. And then you've got your recovery, and your testosterone levels are up, all your hormones are up, so you're going to recover. So you need carbs. They've got to be about, pretty close to half of your diet, what it gets down to.
And so let's get into the carbs and weight management. Start very generic here with do carbs really cause weight gain, or is that a myth?
Well, obviously in the context of the human, when it gets right down, where are they in their life, and what is it? Are carbs, this is how carbs get that whole thing. Carbs it's an it's a dispensable of the three macros: protein, fats, and carbs. There are essential fatty acids you can't live without. There's essential, obviously proteins, obviously all the essential amino acids you can't live without. Carbs we talk about are indispensable. So that's the first thing you're going to cut when you're going to go on a diet. So that's kind of the beginning of the myth around carbs, and they're the bad guy because they're the easy ones to cut, and they're the ones that you will cut. But there's some issues with that. And, so again, carbs do not cause weight gain. That's my biggest issue with everybody. You cause weight gain. That's what it comes down to. You're consuming too many calories. And guess what? Generally, if you're fat, you're eating bad carbs. Yeah. So that's how they get that bad name. Guess what? The leanest people in the world, stay with me here, the leanest people in the world are what? Endurance athletes. 70% of their calories are carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Okay, so carbs don't make you fat for sure. Hang on. The most healthy people in the world follow Mediterranean type diets. 50% of their calories are from carbs. Whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and the stuff that you find in a nut here and there or something. But I'm just saying. So we know carbs don't cause it. Calories do. Yeah. So that's pretty simple. If you can't figure that one out, and you're following some knucklehead that says carbs are your whole problem, the insulin resistance, unfollow that son of a bitch. Game over. Okay, because that's like just stupid.
Insulin resistance just makes it harder, right? It's not stopping.
Well, insulin resistance is a vicious cycle that started generally because you got overweight.
Yeah,
you get overweight, and then a vicious cycle starts. When overweight, now you've got too many fatty acids floating through your body, and it gets stuck in your liver. Your liver goes, I don't know what to do with this shit. Then it throws it out into the bloodstream. Then it goes up, and now your body's bringing in any kind of carbs and doesn't know how to burn it. So the carbs go up, and your pancreas has to produce more insulin to get up there. Now you're hyperinsulin, production, and you can't get the carbs in the cells, and it's trying to burn the fats. It gets all confused, and now you're insulin resistant. Yeah. And the pancreas eventually kind of wears out. So you're pre-diabetic or you're, becoming a type 2 diabetic. So, that's all. It's a vicious cycle that happens, but it starts because people are sedentary and overweight.
Right. I'm just saying, though, like in order to lose weight still, even if you are insulin resistant, you still need to be in a calorie deficit.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. If you're insulin resistant and you're not yet on medication, all you got to do is get active. But I will tell you, if you're there, it's better to cut the carbs at that point to get you to the point you need to be.
Right.
But here's another incredible stat for the audience out there, everybody that's listening, and all these, phony experts, nutrition gurus out there too. The National Weight Control Registry houses all the people that have been successful what we call weight maintainers. They lost anywhere from 30 to a couple hundred pounds, and they kept it off for over 5 years. There's like 10,000 people listed in this thing, and they look at the habits. How did they do that? The average carbohydrate intake was between 45 and 55% of their calories. So it's basically a low-fat diet.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, now, by the way, less than 8% did it on a low-carb diet. Less than 8%. So they don't kind of discard that. But that doesn't mean you can't do a low-carb diet to make it happen first. But you're going to end up getting to some place. Because you go on a low-carb diet too long, you go psycho. You start craving foods you never even liked before.
Yeah.
You're looking at things in cookbooks. Oh, I'm going to eat that when I get done with my diet. I'm going to eat that. So that's why carbs need to be in a weight loss program. Good carbs, complex carbs, to satisfy the normal carb craving all humans have. Yeah. We all know what it's like. You know what it's like.
This is my non-expert opinion when I hear somebody has to go keto or carnivore or something. I look at it as no different than a drug addict that is hooked on something that just can't go. Like, if you're a former drug addict or alcoholic or whatever, you can't go and have a sip of beer without going out the rails. Like, that's why you had to cut carbs out of your life, is because you can't control your intake of them, at the end of the day, right? Like, I mean, that is my, way that I see it. And going no carb got them to their goal, and now that it is like a religion to them. And I'm just talking about like the culture of the people that are like, so if you're low carb and you don't push it on anyone, like that's great.
Yep.
Like I applaud you, you know, like it's cool. You lost the weight, you found a way that's helpful. But there's some people that will go and attack every single person and tell them, why are you eating carbs?
Yep.
When they're a healthy, in shape person, like, you don't need carbs. It's like, dude, like, carbs are totally fine. Like, you can't have carbs because you'll blow up and be a fat fuck after.
That's right.
Because if one grain of rice goes in your fucking mouth, it's end of it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's a pretty good little sort of summary of or analogy, you know, when you talk about that, because I would agree with you. Again, both you and I, you had to diet really to make weight for your fights and so forth. Of course, I did for 18 years as a competitor. When you cut carbs severely, you will now crave carbs beyond your wildest imagination. To your point, drug addict, alcoholic type, you know, feeling where you can't go back to it. But we always could go back to it because motivation.
right.
It's not the diet that got this person to their goal. It's how motivated you were when you started. Right. That's why I'm a fan of it, like things like intermittent fasting. Anything you can cut your calories down, you can stick to it. You don't have to have that total crazy motivation like we did as athletes. You know, when you're a physique athlete and you've got to get your body fat down to nothing, you know, you've got to be so motivated to do that because you are. That's how you make a living, which is different. But there's a place where you settle into. It makes no sense to be on, you know. That's why carbs is always, like I said, that's the dispensable macronutrient when you're dieting. But if you stay on it forever, you're just going to constantly be living in this fear. To your point, you know.
Yeah, there's
it is funny.
Just the comment section. It's just because, I mean, the comment section, right, is typically somebody that agrees with you, they like it, they move on, you know? So, like, it's the people that disagree with you that are leaving comments, which, thank you, you're boosting our algorithm for us. So,
but they're trying to promote something that's controversial, or something that gets people.
It's apparent. It's like, this saved me. It can save you. You know, that is the thing.
Well, if that one or two persons, but if they may save because they went through the same trials and tribulations of that person, I get that. But when you're getting someone that's going to diet for the first time and you tell them they got to cut out all their carbs because of this, or the carnivore diet, which is totally asinine. I mean, wherever that frickin' thing came from, I have no fucking idea. You know, because that's just like, I mean, you got to have some real serious IQ issues. The true carnivore diet. Right. I'm sure there's all kinds of other ones around it, but I mean, that's like bizarre.
It's just, I know.
But to your point, but because carbohydrates have become the enemy. And I go, the enemy. Imagine if none of our athletes could eat carbohydrates. You wouldn't even watch them. Yeah. They'd be like, I mean, they'd just be.
Yeah, no, what I'm just saying is I equate them to like drug addicts or whatnot, is just because you couldn't control a balanced diet. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And like,
by the way, I have no problem someone going on an extreme low carbohydrate diet in order to get the weight down at first, and then come back on to, you know, sort of a normal style of eating all the way around.
Yeah, use it as a tool. I understand that.
Absolutely.
Like, I get it.
It's hard. It's hard to eat a balanced diet and lose weight. You need something to make it where you kind of lock in. That's why, like I said, that's why I'm a fan of intermittent fasting for these people, not athletes, but for people that want to lose weight, because there's some rules to it.
Yeah, I know.
They're easy to follow. And by the way, cutting out carbs like a keto diet, that's freaking easy to do. That's an easy thing to follow.
No, I understand.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. So if you want to get there.
But then when it becomes like their personality trait, and
you're right. Like, then when you start promoting it for other people, shut the fuck up. You are not qualified to have that conversation. Maybe, you know? You are not qualified to have that conversation.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, dude, we're all fine. You have the problem.
That's right.
That's right. Carbs because that's your
keep that to yourself.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, right.
So,
and your next door neighbor if you want.
That was like my little thing. But moving forward, so that was like the midsection about, do carbs cause weight gain or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
How should someone manage their carb intake during a fat loss phase?
Well, first of all, okay, I always like to start everybody out. I love that question because I like to start everyone out at like a 40, 30, 30. 40% carbohydrate, all complex, good ones. 30% protein, 30% fat. And then as we get closer to your goal, at some point, we're probably going to, if you really want to get real lean, we're going to have to drop the calories, right? We can always add activity. There's all kinds of things we can do. But we're going to drop, the only thing we can drop is going to be your carbs. But I got room to drop your fats too. So carbs first, fats second, protein's never going to change. In fact, it might even go up if you have to go real lean. Okay, so that's what it is. So I like that number because that 40% of your calories coming from good complex carb. No, that's just part of every meal, that's all.
Yeah.
Real simple. You start there and then move it down that way. And that's about what a Mediterranean diet is, by the way. A Mediterranean diet, which is certainly the most healthy diet in the world. I don't think no one argues that. 40, 30, 30. Is about what it balances out to. You know, they have some whole grains in it, and they get carbs from nuts and some other things as well in there. And of course, fruits and vegetables, tons of it. But then they have fish and some of the very lean meats. I like that number to get started, and then of course we're going to move the carbs down, probably first, if we have to go lower in calories.
And then the protein intake's obviously
that's going to stay there or go up, depending on how low we're going in calories or how much movement you're doing.
With that ratio, are you always 30%?
No,
I'm saying 30% protein. Is that always going to get you to that 1 gram per pound of lean
Well,
body
first
mass?
of all, I'm glad you said that because I'm giving these guys a number which, you 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. You just lock that in right now and then figure out your other calories around that. That's what it comes down to. That protein's always first. You break the fast in the morning when you wake up with protein. Unfortunately, most people do it with carbs, like a bowl of cereal or a bagel or something like that. That's just, you haven't had any protein in your body since 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, and now it's 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning. I mean, you've been dumping all the amino acids out of your muscle at that point for many, many hours. So you want to get that back in and break the fast and get things going with the protein first. So yeah, I think, again, I don't like percentages for that reason. Because what if you're only eating, and then there are some very small females that are a little bit overweight, that don't move much, that only eat 1,200 calories a day. You can't really do a 40, 30. You're just thinking about 1 gram per pound. So you're getting, let's say they're 125 pounds. You're going to have about 100 grams or 90 grams of protein, and the rest is going to be, carbs are going to be a little bit more than your fats. So that's kind of what it comes down to. Yeah. We have algorithms that do all that for our practitioners.
What role do carbs play in metabolism and hormone balance during weight loss or fat loss?
Oh yeah, I mean it's pretty much most importantly what it does during body fat. In our world, it's body fat reduction. Other people it's weight loss. They all say weight loss. So I'll do weight loss / body fat reduction because I don't want you to lose weight. Right? Because, you're going to lose, that includes muscle, it includes lean body mass, it includes, all kinds of things. So I want you to lose body fat, so that's why we supplement them all. But what it plays in that is, again, carbohydrates more than anything in a weight loss or a body fat reduction program is a sense of a little bit of satiety. And carbohydrates are important for your body feeling full. Fats are important, and protein makes you feel even more full per calorie versus carbohydrate and everything else. But there's still that craving for carbs. So they really play an important role in managing appetite to a certain extent. That's really the main reason. And at the same time, it also brings in nutrients that protein and fats don't. If you're getting complex carbohydrates, they'll have some vitamins and minerals in certain amounts, and of course the fiber. Where are you going to get fiber? You don't get fiber from fat. You're certainly not going to get it from protein alone, right? So you're going to get your fiber, which adds to your fullness and helps control your appetite, get your microbiome fed. You're feeding now all your good bacteria. They're sending good vibrations throughout your body. And we already know that people with healthy microbiomes are leaner than people with unhealthy microbiomes. Overweight, there's a dysfunction. You have a whole sort of dysbiosis taking place in your intestines with the bad bugs or beating the good bugs, eating your intestines away. You got leaky gut stuff, all this kind of stuff happening. And without vegetables and without the fruits and all the fiber that's coming in from your carbs, you can't feed the good bugs. Then they'll wipe out the bad bugs and keep your intestines strong. So that's how carbs play a very important role in weight loss. It's fiber and also a sense of satiety. The fiber is part of that as well.
And
fullness.
That will impact the hormones as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, the appetite hormones.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So and then your microbiome is also communicating with leptin and ghrelin and your GLP, your natural GLP production, all that. That's all happening. That's what the hormones I was talking about.
Okay.
But as far as testosterone, I mean, when you're in a weight loss program, I don't think anybody's worried about that, or a body fat reduction program, unless you're working with people like I work with, athletes.
Yeah.
But your average person, they're not. It's how long are you going to be on this? Unless you're going to be on extreme low calorie.
Yeah.
Low calorie, your testosterone levels are going to go down. There's no question about that.
You kind of gave us your take on, or I kind of gave the take on keto or carnivore. So what's your take on keto, low carb, and carnivore diets for long-term health?
Almost nobody can stay on a keto diet. Or listen, if you're talking about a carnivore diet, I mean that's almost, on the carnivore diet, I'm at that place where I don't even think that's worth addressing. It is so Mickey Mouse. It is so I don't know whoever decided to think about that. I mean, there must be, it is bizarre. I know they say, again, a true carnivore diet means you can have nothing from a plant. Well, humans were never designed to do that. We're designed to be able to eat whatever's available to us. There's times when maybe that's all there was, but the humans didn't live long back then. So the whole thing is a little bizarre. How are you going to get fiber? How are you going to get other vitamins and minerals that are not that you're not going to get out of meat, animal products? So there's something just wrong with that whole idea. I don't mind you thinking about. Listen, I feel like I'm an omnivore, but I favor red meats, and I love meat. I love fish. I love any kind of chicken, but I really love beef, and very lean beef, of course. So, I mean, I'm a fan of that, but I just don't understand why we should even address that, because it seems.
Well, I mean, it's a big
seems
thing
funny
these days. It's a big thing these days. So
I know,
this is Harvard EDU.
Harvard.
I'm just referencing where I'm reading what the carnivore diet meal plan only allows consumption of meat, poultry, eggs, seafood, fish, some dairy products, and water.
Mm-hmm.
You need to exclude all vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, seeds, and nuts. That's why it is sometimes referred to as the zero carb diet.
Yeah.
So, what is your opinion on the carnivore diet for long-term health based on what you just heard?
Yeah, it's a horrible for long-term health. We know enough in science now. I'm going to go back to it again. People that live longest, healthiest, stay active all the way to death in blue zones. What is it? Mediterranean, which is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, and nuts. I would love to see how many people that ate literally what you just read, how long they live and how they live. Yeah. How many colonoscopies turn up all kinds of cancer in the colon, because, shit's just laying there. You don't have the fiber coming through and cleaning things out. I mean, there's something really wrong with anybody that believes in that, unless you want to believe in it because all you care about is eating animal meats. You're managing data for your convenience if you believe in that. That's what I want to do. Oh, God, see that? This guy just said, God, you lose weight, you feel better, your mind works better, all this kind of stuff. What, that day? Or, next day or the next day or whatever, but in long-term health, you'd have to be really, really gullible, naive, or absolutely ignorant to believe that. Yeah. So that's all. Long-term health. Temporarily, I have no problem with it. None. I don't have any problem with it. Temporarily, I don't have a problem with keto. Keto, by the way, keto is very effective clinically. It was designed for epilepsy and all that. Works very well. There's some other clinical applications for a pure keto diet.
Understood.
Yeah. So that's another world. Staying on a keto diet forever, and most people just they go alter it. Well, yeah, I'm on keto, but they're not. Look at what they're really eating, and it's not quite. They're not getting a true keto is actually too low in protein. You're not getting your gram per pound. If you get your gram per pound, I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Because they're eating a little bit of carbs on that one there. So, that's my opinion on that. What was the other one? There was not the third one?
It was just keto, low carb, and carnivore.
Yeah.
So
and listen, if you can survive on a low carb diet, God bless you. I don't tell people what to eat anymore. I gave up on that, Zane, a long time. We know what you should eat to live a longer, better life. Okay? But listen, but I'm not going to put listen, you pick something that you can stick with. Pick something you can stick with. That doesn't mean you can't pick something like we just talked about to get you where you need to go, and now you can settle into something you can stick with. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like these carnivore diets, like
there's something wrong.
The success stories, they speak the loudest. So, they're like these people that are like,
I did it for how long?
They're like pushing religion. It's like they're going door to door and like knocking. Yeah. Do you want to believe in our Heavenly Father,
And then you manage data for your own convenience.
Yeah.
We can find a study on anything to try to, there's a thread of truth in almost all this little shit that's out there. And they just twist it up into a story because hey, listen, that's the thing about the internet. And that's the thing about the way people communicate today. They are looking for something that fits their world. Oh, God, that guy sounds so smart. That is amazing. Okay, here's my question. Let me see the people that follow your program, like the millions in our gyms and everything else that we have, and just tell me what their consensus is. If I put everyone in our gyms on a carnivore diet, we'd be dropping dead, and while they're working out under a bench press after a few months. It's like, all of it is just, it's comical, to a certain extent.
I mean, you hear, like, there's actually so many horror stories people say, like, with the carnivore diet, too. Like, there's people talking about, like, their skin was never so bad. Like, they start getting rashes and stuff like that. So it's like,
think about your microbiome.
There's actual adverse reactions to people having carnivore diet where it's like, I don't know if you have that with any other diet where there's like, you can visibly see the person is like becoming like famished or like unhealthy,
I mean, for sure. You're missing some nutrients somewhere. That's for sure. If you're strictly carnivore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think that answers the question. The next one we had here, can you lose weight and still eat carbs every day?
Absolutely. And you probably should have them there in the beginning. And then you can just move them down a little bit because they're, like I said, they're dispensable. But you need it to satisfy the natural carb. All humans are addicted to sugar, whether you like it or not. We're addicted to glucose. That's, we have all those senses. We're addicted to umami, which is your protein. We're addicted to salt. We're addicted to sugar, and we're addicted to fats. That's how we evolved as a species. So we would recognize foods, and bitter things we knew were poison, so we wouldn't eat those. So we know what not to eat. We know what to eat. Every food scientist knows that. I think we did an episode on that. So they lace all our foods with that. They lace everything with sugar, fat, and salt to make you get addicted to it. And that's why people are all upset about ultra-processed foods and so forth, which is a whole nother conversation, when it gets to ultra-processed foods.
So when eating carbs, what is the best time of day to eat carbs?
It doesn't matter. They should be a little piece of all your meals. There's no reason not to. I don't think I eat a meal that's just protein. The only time I do is when I'm just using, I'll take the amino acids only, just because I'm going to go 6 hours without eating. I want to make sure I got some essential aminos that will convert to whatever aminos I need to, keep muscle active and so forth. So, I don't think there's no reason in the world. There's no time limit. And by the way, audience is going to love this. The latest study came out. Everything's about chrononutrition. I don't know if you know what that means. That's just timing of your food.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this will blow your fucking mind. Okay, because I've been saying this forever. People go, well, I heard you can't eat carbs late at night. I heard you shouldn't have a late night meal. The leanest people in the world eat right before they go to bed. Those are the athletes we work with. So they can wake up in the morning and go bed to gym or bed to field, right? So these are the leanest people in the world. So that's just stupid. Your body doesn't have a clock that decides when to store fat. It's the total calories you take in. It's always been that. And I've won that argument 100 times. But here's what they did. This latest study, which I was kind of shocked at, they were testing people that eat late in the day versus people that eat all their calories early in the day. Nothing to do with intermittent fasting. And they put people on a diet where you would get most of your calories before mid-afternoon. And they put the other people had most of your calories late night before you went to bed. And guess who got the leanest?
Oh.
The people that ate the calories late at night. That was a surprise to everybody, including the researchers. And this was a really cool, well-done study. Like I said, it doesn't matter. So just have a little bit of carbs in every one of your meals or whenever you feel like it. But just keep it together.
Whatever's comfortable for you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I know we don't like to get clinical here, but how should carbs be adjusted for someone with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, stay away from the shitty carbs like we were talking about. Stay away from the easy, simple carbs. Obviously, your sodas and things like that, and white breads, white pasta, just stay away from that stuff. Okay, eat it when you're going to have carbs. Keep them lower though, because you have prediabetes or you're insulin resistant, and you're type 2 diabetic, which means that you're on your way to that's generally because you got overweight and now you got all the spillage of got too much free fatty acids floating around. Your body's trying to burn that, so it can't burn glucose. So what does your system do? It produces more insulin. So you got and now your cells become resistant to the insulin. And so you got all kinds of issues. Your blood glucose gets too high, and then you're, again, all the things we talked about earlier. So you want to get rid of the lousy, carbs that are in there. Just manage your insulin. That's the number one thing. Every diabetic in the world knows it's about managing your insulin. You can actually have pretty much any carb you want if you manage it perfectly. Most people don't do a great job at it. Some people do. You can, but we don't want you to. We want you to get active. Complex carbs only, and get them down to maybe 30% or 40% of your calories for now until you lose the weight, and then you can go back up to 40 or 50, whatever, somewhere in there, of complex carbs. So whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Everybody write that down. You can't lose with that. So that's what you should be eating there, and then manage your glucose, manage your insulin injections and your insulin in your body and all that kind of stuff properly, and you're good to go. But don't forget, being active all of us now your insulin insensitivity is now becoming insulin sensitive again. So your receptors, everything gets better if you get active, get active, and eat like that. Good things are going to happen.
What's the biggest carb myth you wish people would stop believing?
Yeah, that's that the carbs are the enemy. It just bothers me because you know what? If you're overweight, you're the enemy. And I'm not trying to knock you. I'm just saying, food's the enemy. You have a difficult relationship with food. I do. I'm dieting my whole life. I have to think about what I'm eating. But because I make a living with my body, and I have to look okay, or who the fuck's going to believe me? If I'm a fat fuck, So then that's not going to happen. So so I have to control it though, because otherwise, I'd eat and drink whatever the hell I wanted because I love food. I love food. Okay, so it really is, carbs not the enemy. The enemy is your relationship with food if you are overweight. So that's what I want people to stop thinking. The other part of that is what is that bad carb associated with? Is it in a Snickers bar? Is it in some ultra-processed food that's all screwed up? So what's the context of the carb? Good carbs, like the Mediterranean diet that we were talking about, good carbs that we use for athletes and everything else are absolutely fine. Don't make that the enemy. Blame it on something else. Blame it on your lifestyle that you can't control or whatever. And blame it on your genetics. I don't mind if you blame it on your mom and dad. Go ahead and do that. I don't really give a shit. But it is all controllable because at the end of the day, who's putting it in your mouth?
Your elbow.
Okay, there you go.
Your elbow bends, your mouth opens.
There you have it. But I get it. It's just hard for people. And trust me, it's hard for me.
Yeah, me too.
And you know what's going to happen. You're getting your engagement party's coming up. I don't know if your fans know that yet, but your engagement party's coming up. And you know what I'm going to be doing? I'll be drinking and pounding the groceries.
Yeah.
I'll probably have 7,000 calories that day. But I'll make it up. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I know how to do it. I can manage all that stuff, but that's the thing. You can have fun. You can eat and enjoy because you can make that up easily all the way around.
And then some people will come back and say, well, you, Neal, have a bad relationship with food because you can't just go and eat and have a carefree time without thinking you have to make it up later, you know?
Well, yeah, you're right, because I have to make it up later.
I know, but like some people say that's a toxic relationship with food.
I already said
the fact
I said that.
Yeah.
I already said that.
Yeah,
I'm admitting
but that's what keeps you in check.
Exactly.
That's
mean,
called balance.
Listen, we live in an environment where you're not. Most people can't move. They make a living sitting on their ass.
Yeah, just funny.
And they have great food all around them. So you are fucked if you can't figure that out.
That is like, you know,
you're 100%.
People guilt you for not being able to just have guiltless fun, you know? Like, why do you have to compensate for it later on?
Well,
you know?
Well, because otherwise I'd be a fat fuck.
I know.
That's what it would be.
But people like
I've got
guilt you for that. Like,
well, you know what?
No, I'm just saying that's where we've come as a, or at least what I'm, society, you know, that's what I'm exposed
you have to. I tell
on the
people,
internet.
I did this when I created the Body Bug, which was the very first activity monitoring device that had a weight control thing in it, and I got the award for the what's best of new in health in the United States.
Yeah,
you know, back in 2004, 2003, and then the rest of it came after that, right? Fitbits and everything else came after that, but that was the bomb, right? Because I told people, if you can't be cognizant of what's going in your body and how many calories you're burning. I mean, you're always going to be in this thing. And all we do is we keep getting fatter. But this way it tells you, I don't care what you eat, but I care how much you eat compared to how much you move. So that was the beginning of this whole new sort of era of what, you know, we talk about today. And that is you have to today, if we lived in a world, Zane, in a deserted islands, you know, where you have to hunt for your food, we're all going to be shredded.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But we live in a world where food's handed to us and we have an addiction to food. All of humans do, obviously, but we have addiction to, and the better they taste, the more we want it. And then we have this sensitivity that now we're trying to get higher. We're trying to eat more food to, I got to feel better. And that's that unhealthy addiction to food that people just can't control. And then they just go, okay, I'll make it up later. Or this, so you do have to pay attention to what's going in your body nowadays. You wouldn't have to in the old days because you're just trying to figure out how to eat enough food to go chase your next hunt. You know, so anyway, it's another world we live in, and we have to accept that.
Unless there's somebody that just is in perfect balance all the time, you don't need to worry about
there
it.
Are, you know, surprisingly, there is a percentage of people I've actually known a few.
I know a couple.
I know them, man. They're not a high percentage. Right. Obviously, we got 70% of the population overweight. And then we got about 10% like maybe you and me, we're figuring out on our own, right? But there's probably about 10% of the population where they never even think about. They just go and they eat and they go and they eat, but that is not going to work for the vast majority of the population in Western civilized worlds. There's too much good food around, and all your food manufacturers, you can blame it on them all you want, but they're just responding to the American appetite. Right, they got to beat the next guy to better taste. Yeah. And that just comes with a lot of shit. That's what it comes down to. So that's the real difficult part for food manufacturers, which is another story. We'll talk about how calories got on all the stuff.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a calories in, calories out.
Yeah, well, just for
strictly,
fun,
and we'll do that. Yeah. All right, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think we covered everything carbs. I mean, hopefully you took from this that they're not the enemy. They're not the enemy. And
there's some really good carbs out there, and the healthiest people in the world eat good carbs. The healthiest people in the world that live the longest and the leanest eat good carbs. That's what it comes down to.
And we're not saying these no carb things are not good tools to get you where you go, but it's not a long-term solution.
100%.
So do what you got to do to lose the weight. Yeah. We got plenty of episodes on that if you want to see. Yeah. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Don't forget, take your multivitamin, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Boom. Cool.